Welcome back to another episode of the Brutally Honest Loan Officers Podcast. I'm Derek Brown. Here with me is my co-host Steven.
What's going
Say
on,
hi.
buddy?
Oh man. How are you doing, dude?
I'm doing good. Had a nice little vac vacation. So
Yeah, well, you just got back from a cruise?
we did. Came back from a cruise. Went to the Bahamas, Coco Cay, Royal Caribbean, part of it, and then came home. 4 days. It was nice. Drank way more than probably I should. Ate way more than I definitely should. And then we got back and had a bunch of crap to do. It's like always,
Yeah.
you know, painting part of the house, replanting plants.
I think I'm gonna do that. Replant some plants like the front of our sidewalk walking up to the house, all that little
Yeah.
landscaping stuff. Um, the freeze killed everything. We just haven't done anything yet, but
Yeah, you guys had the back-to-back freeze, right? It
yeah,
froze and then thawed and froze again. That's what killed
yeah.
everything is that second one. Yeah.
So Tony's taking the kids to West Virginia this Thursday. Um, so I think while I won't have the kids bothering me, like I'll be able to
The time
do
to
a
do
little
it.
bit more, a little bit quicker.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know. But yeah, this weekend, I mean, didn't do anything crazy. I think Bennett's getting sick. I've been coughing up something. I don't know. I think something's kind of going through our
Ooh.
house right now. Trying to get
And
ahead of
this
that.
the beginning of summer bug.
Yeah.
Oh, it's but
I don't
all
know. And then
right.
we spent 30 minutes today at the pass, no, an hour today at the passport place, but I had to spend 30 minutes driving back to our house and then driving back to get a check because they only take checks or money orders. Didn't know that till we got there.
Oh gee. Oh, every
So
time we go on a cruise, I look at my passport. I'm like, oh, is it updated? Is it still good? I'm
I
good for
I
that.
renewed mine for when we went to COC.
I'm good for
Um,
like 10 years.
yeah, but I got mine 10 years ago.
Oh,
And so
so,
it was expiring or whatever. And so, but it came back quick, I guess. So,
yeah, it is pretty quick. All right. So what are we talking about today?
well, I have a question for you. If I told you that property taxes could be dramatically reduced, or maybe even eliminated someday, would you be excited?
I mean, I don't pay property taxes, so yeah, I'll be excited.
Okay, well, Stephen, okay, you're a loan officer. What if your buyers did not have to pay
I think
property
it would
taxes, or we were able
be
to eliminate that from their DTI?
it would help a lot of people. I mean, you got to think some of these property taxes. So when I first got into business in 2020, we might have calculated 50 to $75 per 100,000 you were borrowing. Property taxes weren't tremendously high. Same thing with insurance, but then we just had so much skyrocket of value after
Right,
COVID that property taxes skyrocketed too, because it's going off the value of the homes.
right,
So now you have all of this extra money to the counties and state and everything. Like, do they really need it all? I mean, of course, you're giving money to a county and they're going to use it all, but do they actually need it?
right.
Yeah, I think it would help a lot of people tremendously. But even so, I know like Texas recently, they just increased their home. So like in Florida, the homestead exemption, if you're married, is 50,000, 25,000 for each person. There's certain people that
Right.
get a little bit extra, like if you are a disabled veteran, um, you get an extra 5,000 off the
Yeah,
homestead
blind,
exemption.
widowed, other
Yeah,
disabilities. Like
there's
there's
there's there's other little ones in there, and if you're 100% disabled veteran, you don't pay the property taxes
ad
on
valorem.
there. Yeah, add one. So like I have a was it CDD, right?
Yeah,
Community development. So I have one of those on our property tax, so I still have to pay that. So
gotcha.
that doesn't go away.
Well,
Um,
the whole elimination of property taxes is exactly what Ron DeSantis has proposed. He's been
mhm.
talking about it for the last week or so.
For
There's a
primary homeowners.
well, yeah. So
So that's the biggest thing here is primary homes. So commercial properties, investments, second homes, all of those will still have normal property tax. This is
right,
for your primary homestead is what they're looking at.
correct. And talking about taking it from right now that $50,000 that you talked about,
Mm-hmm.
they're talking about driving up to 250,000. So if
Yeah.
your assessed property is 300,000, your assessed value, um, then you take 50,000 off of homestead. So you're being assessed or taxed on $250,000.
Mhm.
Now, if you have a $300,000 assessed value and this change happens and you're able to deduct 250,000, then you're paying property taxes on 50,000. A huge reduction in what you're paying.
Which is so this is similar to like what Texas did. Texas, I think they were at like 70 and then increased it to 140. And I think for like seniors of 200.
Right.
So like that is a huge, like they're seeing other states do it. And like Texas doesn't have an income tax, just like Florida. So they're still able to do this and have meet their budget requirements just fine.
Right.
I think so. I think like this is a huge thing that could happen if they do this, is to keep it that way. Now they're saying, hey, if you there's some stipulation that if you own the home, maybe you have to own it for a couple of years before they're going to increase it. Like you, the first couple of years you're there, you're going to have to pay normal taxes, and then it will increase. But this is getting a lot of attention, and I think there's a lot of pros, and there can be some cons in there too that we're going to talk about with it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think we're looking at a house divided. Um, the pros obviously are savings, but
Yeah,
then there's also like, because in the proposal, if you were to purchase a home in, let's just say you wait till next year, 2027, then you have to wait 5 years
yeah,
before you get this, discount.
mm-hmm.
Like, that sucks.
And that's like,
So then, like, what if you sell your home and then buy a new one? Like, are they trying to track it by the home you live in, or just owning a primary home in Florida? So you got to wait 5 years. Let's say 4 years from 20, you buy a home in 2027. 4 years later, you sell it, purchase a new home. Like, are you eventually going to be able to get that, like, just by living in Florida for five
yeah,
years?
is it going to be like portability? Like, are you moving
Right.
your homestead over? So Florida has a portability where you have a savings from your taxes that when you buy the new one, the new house as a homestead, you port the savings over. So are they going
Yeah.
to do the same thing? I think that's something else they got to figure. They're going to
And
iron it out.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, too, like, you and I see this on a regular basis. You were talking about, property taxes being higher and stuff like that. But there's times where Um, I've had clients who want to buy like a new home.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it's not new, like call it 10 years old or whatever. But the property taxes are kind of through the roof because it was owned by an investor.
Yeah,
So there's no homestead savings or anything like that. And then once we add the property taxes, like I've had times where the client can almost not afford the home.
yeah,
And then I've also got other clients that bought a home 15 years ago. And because all the homes around them have increased in value, their property taxes are going up. Some of them are retired, lived on fixed incomes, and then they can't afford the property taxes to go up. And they still have their homestead savings. They've got the cap, but it's still going up
yeah.
every single year. And so, I
Or you
mean,
got
I've
people that
heard,
they paid off their mortgage. They don't have a mortgage anymore. They own that house free and clear, and they're still paying property taxes every single year on it.
which
I mean,
makes it
I
feel
think
like you're renting from the county
yeah,
for
that's where
something
a
you
lot of
own.
people are like, I'm still rent. I'm basically renting my land house for them. So I get both sides of it. Like why would I think so? Like you said, the affordability that is a huge lower property taxes means lower monthly costs. People on fixed budgets can budget way more properly on this, knowing what they're going to do, have
Right,
more money for their life. Some people are just living on Social Security, which Social Security in Florida doesn't get you a lot.
right,
Maybe other states, but not in South Florida for definitely for sure. Insurance, everything else, property taxes, like that is huge. Um, I think another big benefit is if you start lowering our property taxes, you're going to get a lot of people that want to start moving here again.
right.
So that'll be huge. Like what you said before, there is no state income tax. Now you have property taxes that could reduce. Could get a lot of people to choose Florida.
Well, and I think people just want to keep more of their own money.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, if you were to live in a home for 100 years, and you'll like you're going to end up paying property taxes for 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say, your grandparents owned a home, they paid off the mortgage, they passed it on to your parents, who then passed it on to you, and you've got this. home that's been in your family for years, still paying property taxes, still paying insurance. You know, technically, I guess if you don't have a mortgage, you don't have to pay homeowners insurance. You don't have to have insurance on it. When you
Yeah.
have a mortgage, you're required to have insurance.
Mhm.
But no matter what, mortgage or not, you got to pay property taxes. So I think that there's probably some happy medium we could find. I don't think it's a smart idea to completely erase property taxes.
I think that we were perfectly fine with the taxes before. You had properties with 22, 23 increasing 20 to 30% every single year.
Right.
Did So now the county is getting 20 to 30% every single year extra. Do they need that? Do they honestly need that much money for? So did their budget, hey, now increase 20, 30%? Do they have all this extra money to do things? What are they using all that extra money for? So I think like you said, there is a happy medium where there needs to be some drawback on this. And that's where the con could be is if we draw it back, where does that money's coming from property tax, or where's it going to come from now?
Well, let's talk about what it pays for. Schools, roads, fire department, sheriff's office, libraries, parks, um, just road maintenance and stuff like
Mhm.
that. I mean, that's property taxes pays for all of that. So if we're going to completely eliminate property taxes, how are we going to fund those things?
Yeah, that's the
And
question.
that's my biggest concern.
Yeah,
My wife is a teacher. Do I want to completely take away all funding for education? No,
but the
of
thing is
course not.
like, where does a major part of education actually come from? The lottery. Half of the lottery, I'm gonna say debt. When you pay for a lot, you buy a lottery ticket for $1. Half of it goes to the education fund. I don't think people realize how much money actually goes to the education from the lottery. So they're still having that. So they're not going to just be education fund doesn't get eliminated because property taxes go. So that is one. I know one people's concern with it. Do they raise sales tax, or do they increase the taxes on the investment properties or commercial properties?
Or do we want to have a state income tax?
Do we have a state income tax? I think you get a lot more people that would move away then.
That's one of the enticements of living in Florida. No
Mm-hmm.
state income tax. I'm curious what my tax bill shows as far as breakdown. But I just like, dude, if I call 911, I want a police officer to show up.
Yeah, and they're still
And
going to show up. So the budget's still in there for that. So what do we have a budget? 115 billion is the state budget, but then you have the counties in between. I think the biggest thing. So if you're going to cut property taxes, do you need to replace the revenue? That's what most people's question on. But I think something that doesn't get talked about is Florida audited all their counties on their budget. So here's a couple of them that were kind of in. Palm Beach County was flagged for an estimated 344 million in overspend.
yikes.
That's the highest figures in the state. The county I live in, the highest, highlighting the post-pandemic population growth and the data-driven cost saving measures. They were not saving money like they were supposed to. They just kept spending, spending, and spending. Hillsborough County audited for excessive budget growth since 2019. Okay, so you had some increases. Their budget increased. The state flagged at nearly $279 million in alleged bloated general funding spending. So yeah, they got the money from all these property taxes, but are they overspending just because they have the money? There was a saying in the army, like our fiscal year, our government fiscal year is October 1st to September 30th. So in September was your most expensive month of spending money. Because you're like,
Because you had to
oh,
spend the rest of the budget.
you're like, I have all this budget. I need to spend it or they're going to cut my budget.
Right.
So you're just buying all of this stuff, spending it on whatever it is. Yeah, maybe you're stockpiling and stuff, but you honestly didn't need to do it. You honestly showed, hey, I went through the whole year not needing this whole budget.
Right.
But that's not how
I
people
know.
in the government work. Hey, let's spend it all so we don't use it or lose it, kind of thing.
I'm just I'm
Broward
so torn
County,
on
roughly
this.
450 million. and property tax increase over the last 5 years that they did not need it. So they have, I think this wasn't
Well, but
a,
also let's be fair, because some counties are disputing those findings and argue that not all the spending is actually wasteful.
I mean, they were third party auditors. It wasn't like DeSantis went in there and said, "Hey, you were doing this." Like this is third party. So yeah,
Okay. So
they're
you're
arguing
guilty
against
until
it.
proven innocent, or
Or were innocent and then they just proved you were guilty? Just because you don't like the findings doesn't mean they're wrong.
I don't know. I think that
I don't
sometimes there
think
might
it's
be an
maybe as
explanation for
much.
something.
I mean, 344 million. If I say, hey, that's what you are, and you're like, no, no, it's really like 200. Okay, you still spent over 200 million that you need
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
to.
I'm trying to
I feel like that's
look
like
at this.
that's you're going to jail for murder. Hey, you didn't get the death penalty, but you're still in life for jail. Like in life for jail for life. Like, all right, yeah, you're still in trouble. So I can see in this. So they kind of did it the right way of like, hey, we see you're overspending a lot. Now we need to fix. If you're not going to fix it, we can just fix property taxes, make those lower, help the people, and now you're going to have less money to work with. So I kind of see how they went about it. Makes sense. Now, do you think the counties and the municipalities? Ooh, that was a tough word for me.
Municipalities.
Wow. Or you think they're going to rebudget? Or you? I mean, they're going to have to the property.
Well,
taxes.
okay, that's where like this is a proposal.
Mm-hmm.
Ron DeSantis came out with this proposal. Um, I think it's one of those like political ideology things. Like it's not clickbait, but it almost feels like because it's politics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he comes
I
out
mean,
with this
he has
proposal.
learned a lot from Trump. Like, let me go far extreme of what I really want this, but if I go so far out that what I really want, that middle ground, you're like, okay, I'll give you that.
Right.
So maybe instead of 200 and something thousand, we get 100,000.
Well,
Well,
we've
that's
got
still
like
double the exemption.
they're doing like a special legislative meeting this week to discuss it, and that's where I want to see like what comes out of that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This is the proposal. It's not what's going to happen. It can't be. You can't just immediately eliminate
And
that
it
much
also
money
has
that
to
goes
get
to the
voted on by us,
it
by
has
the
to get
voters.
voted on. But there's also like reduced property taxes, but then you have to pay like a 5% exit tax if you sell a home. We also can't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so somebody own like you, if it's a $400,000 house, they're gonna have to pay $20,000 to the county or the
Mm-hmm.
state or whatever when they sell their house. Like, people are gonna not be able to sell in some circumstances. So I don't know. Like when I look at like my tax bill, I've got school capital outlay $1,005, school discretionary in parentheses basic $501, and then the school RLE $2,011. So $3,500 a year I'm paying towards something regarding schools, and then I've got county general fund,
So
road district, fire.
you and your wife pay your property taxes. So let's just say she's half of it. You said 31?
35.
35? All right. So like 1750. She pays her own paycheck.
Right.
And that's
For
another
1 month.
Yeah. That's for no for your but she pays that 1750 in property taxes to a school district, who then pays her a salary. She's paying her own paycheck. Part of it. I always thought that was kind of. I mean, the same thing when I was in the army. Like, hey, I'm paying my government taxes to then pay me
Right.
to work in the army. Like, I thought it should be. I think if you work in government, you shouldn't be paying taxes on your income or part of your school taxes.
I just want to keep the things we actually need. Like, I don't want
Mhm.
fewer police officers. I don't want worse roads. I don't want schools struggling because we no longer have funding where we need it. But I also think that we could reduce property taxes. I think
I think
that
we could
there
definitely
is an
reduce.
affordability issue, but we also have an insurance issue.
Yeah, which they have been starting to come down. So they have worked on it. Insurances are starting to come down. Mine was less this year, not much, but it was still less. So they are starting to come down on that. I think they have worked on that. Just people, we live in a generation where everything is on our phones and everything is instant. So we want instant gratification of, oh, I want you to reduce this now.
Yeah.
I think they are going to slowly reduce it. I think they're going to keep looking at people's budgets and say at the county's budgets and be like, nope, you're overspending here. You're doing this. This is this. You're gonna be audited every single year. Now,
I mean, who's going to run that audit for all the counties we have in Florida? The
that
state?
is the state does. They made the Florida Department of Government Efficiencies, overseen by the state auditor general and the chief financial officer, which targets counties spending against pre-pandemic baselines to push for property tax reduction. So they were looking to see, do we need to reduce property taxes because you have such an increase of values that the taxes increase so much doesn't mean you need all that money.
Right.
Maybe we do something that, hey, the values increase. We don't need to just have a $50,000 exemption anymore. We need to increase that to exempt it more. We don't need to, like I said, these ones that are collecting, what was it, the state final one? The state says off of that it was like 2 billion.
Yeah.
They
So
think that
in
the
excessive
state
spending?
collected over 2 billion extra in property taxes because of counties using too much money. Now, not every county might be just fine.
Like if I take Audrey to Target and I give her $100, I say you can buy whatever you want, but $100, that's it. You can spend all of it. You don't have to. I mean, she's a child. She's gonna break out a calculator and try to figure out like how can I spend the whole $100? I want this and this, and then we're at 101. You got to put something back. She'll put something back, but I think she would do everything she could to like she would be super happy and be at $75. Is there more? There's okay. Let me find something for 25. Like so. But if I had told her like you only have $50, I think her level of excitement and happiness would be the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, do I think that we could figure out some budget issues? I do. I do.
I think that was part of their whole before they did the property tax reduction is hey, you're
But
overspending.
nothing what has come from the CFO saying like you guys poorly managed your budget? What's
Yeah,
come from it?
what are the consequences? Like, hey, you get less now.
You're
Figure
talking
it
about
out.
Palm Beach County spent $300 million more than they had to,
Yeah, let's see here. What happened to Palm Beach County? I want to see what if they had a consequence. Are they still probably litigating it? I mean, they're gonna be like, oh no, we said this much.
well, so now we've got lawyers involved. We're
Oh
litigating
yeah.
it. Throw a couple million more in there. I don't know, man. It's just like I think this is the hardest thing to try and get around. We've got to fix the budget, then we can lower property taxes accordingly. We can find like, because the idea of increasing the homestead exemption to 250, and then he talked about, and then later to like 500,000, which would eliminate 92% of property taxes paid by Florida homeowners.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
But
that's
how much of our budget is paid by primary? How much is a Florida state budget paid by primary homesteaded property?
what's the same.
Let's see what it says. The general sales tax pays for about 39%. So 40%, roughly 39% of our revenue comes from sales tax. Corporate sales tax, probably 30% of the state budget is supported by federal grants and matching programs, such as like Medicaid. So that's, what are we at then? 71. Then dock stamps, real estate transactions,
Only
highway fees.
36% of property tax revenue comes from homesteaded properties.
Mhm.
Statewide property tax data shows 64% of Florida's property tax revenue is paid by non-primary residents, investors, second home, commercial properties, and vacation rentals.
So, but how much of that is paid? So out of the 100% of property taxes, only 36% of that is from homestead properties. So how
So
much are
then,
we actually looking at?
how much?
Here you go. Totaling roughly 18.5 billion. That's for the local jurisdictions, which breaks down to about 7.8 billion for counties, 7.7 billion for school districts, and 3 billion for cities.
Florida collected approximately 56 billion in property tax revenues for 2025.
Yeah, but that's not what's going to the local. That's the state part too. So they could be taking stuff from the state. They take money from the state part, and then you still have your county still get it. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. They're trying to figure out to get some relief. They're trying to stop counties from overspending and actually spending correctly. I mean, they're all good things. I think there will be a happy medium. Not everybody's going to be happy. You're going to like some things on it, and then you're going to some things you're not going to like. But I think it needs to be done. I think it needs to be serious looked at. I think once they kind of have a real plan and what the consequences would be of the plan. Okay, how do we make up for the income? Do we need to make up for the income? That could be the other thing. It might be like, we don't need to make up for the income. You need to have a better budget. But this has been talked about for the government for, when do we start collecting income taxes as a country? I think it was like after World War One. Like
yeah. I mean, this is
over 100 years that any family that ran a budget like the government does would be foreclosed on, would be in bankruptcy.
it's so bad.
It's horrible.
I'm curious to see where this goes. This is going to be one of the biggest housing and affordability stories we hear about all year. And
Now,
I guess regardless of where you stand politically, it's going to affect every homeowner in Florida, in Florida. So I don't know. For anybody listening, let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Would you support eliminating do you support eliminating property taxes if it meant finding other ways to fund local services? Or do you think the focus should be on cutting waste first? You know what I mean? Like, what do we do first? Eliminate property taxes or eliminate the waste?
And maybe they don't have the power to eliminate the waste, but they have the power of changing the property tax exemption and then giving it to the voter and say, hey, you vote on it now. Right. Here's what it is. Because it takes 60% of the Florida voters to approve it. We'll know in November.
Well, I want to know what this
November
proposal turns into. Yeah.
What does this proposal turn into, and then what gets put on the ballot? November will tell what it will be.
And I bet there's going to be a ton of words that we don't understand just yet.
I mean,
making it seem like it's. Yeah, well, you struggle to read and type, so.
All right, well, let us know what you think. This has been another episode of the Brutally Honest Loan Officer Podcast. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening. See ya.